Question 1. Solve 3x minus 4 equals 8. To solve an equation, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter is on its own. We move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides. We usually move a plus or a minus number before any multiply or divide numbers. There's a minus 4 that we're going to move first in this equation. So to move a minus 4, we're going to do the opposite of minus 4 to both sides, which is plus 4. So on the left hand side, the minus 4 and plus 4 will cancel out, and that just leaves us with the 3x on the left hand side. And on the right hand side, we just do the calculation. 8 plus 4 makes 12. Our next step is to move the 3. The 3 is multiplying by x because it's beside the x. And so the opposite of a 3 that's multiplying is a 3 that's dividing, which we'll do to both sides. On the left hand side, the 3 that's multiplying and the 3 that's dividing will cancel out, leaving us with the letter on its own, which is what we want. That's what solving an equation really means, getting the letter on its own and some value on the right hand side. In this case, we do 12 divided by 3 for the right hand side and get 4. So our final solution to that equation is x equals 4. Question 2. Solve 2m plus 4 equals 12. To solve an equation, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides, and we usually move the plus or minus numbers before any multiply or divide numbers. Here we're going to look at moving the plus 4 first. To move a plus 4, we need to do the opposite to both sides, which would be minus 4. On the left hand side, the plus 4 and the minus 4 disappear because they kind of cancel each other out, leaving us with 2m on the left hand side. On the right hand side, 12 minus 4 makes 8. Invisibly between the 2 and the m there's a multiply sign, we can imagine. So the opposite of multiplying something by 2 is dividing by 2, and is what we're doing to both sides there. They'll cancel out on the left hand side, leaving us nicely with the letter on its own, which is what we want. And on the right hand side, 8 divided by 2 is 4. Question 3. Solve x over 3 plus 4 equals 7. To solve an equation, we move all the numbers away from the letter until it's on its own. We move things by doing the opposite operation to both sides, and we look to move plus or minus things before multiply or divide things usually. So here we're going to move the plus 4 first. To move a plus 4, we do the opposite to both sides. In this case is minus 4. So on the left hand side, the plus 4 and the minus 4 we don't have to worry about anymore. They kind of cancel each other out. Leaves us with x over 3 on the left hand side. On the right hand side, we just do the calculation. 7 minus 4 is 3. Now there's a 3 that's dividing on the left hand side, so to move that so that the letter is on its own, we'll do the opposite. The opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. We must do it to both sides though. On the left they'll cancel out, leaving us with the letter on its own, which is what we're aiming for. And on the right hand side, 3 times 3 makes 9. Question 4. Solve 10 minus 3a equals 4. Solve, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. To move numbers, we do the opposite to both sides. And we usually move plus or minus numbers before multiply or divide numbers. Here we've got a 10 that we're wanting to move. It doesn't have a plus or a minus sign in front of it, but it's a positive 10, so we can consider it as being a plus 10. So to move that 10, we need to sort of take it away by minusing 10 to both sides. It's a bit different, this one. So a 10 and a minus 10 will cancel out nicely. Now that minus in the original, in front of the 3a there, belongs to the 3a term. So that shouldn't be affected just because we want to move the 10. So what we have left on the left hand side in this one is minus 3a. Be careful, don't affect that minus because he belongs to the 3a term. On the right hand side we have 4 minus 10. Now we're taking away more than we have, so we'll get a minus answer there. If we do that on the number line and start with 4 and go 10 jumps in the minus direction, we'll go past 0 by 6 jumps. So we end up with minus 3a equals minus 6. Now to get the letter on its own, we need to move a minus 3 that's invisibly multiplying by the a. Now the opposite of multiplying by minus 3 is dividing by minus 3. Don't change both of those things. We just want to do the opposite of what's happening between the number and the letter. So we do minus 3 to divide by minus 3 both sides. On the left hand side, a multiplying of minus 3 and a dividing of minus 3 cancel each other out, leaving us with our letter on its own, which is good. And on the right hand side, we'll have to be careful with that. Minus divided by a minus makes a plus, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So careful with those things, and we'll get a equals 2. Question 5. Solve x over 5 plus 2 equals 3. To solve, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We move things by doing the opposite operation to both sides, and we usually look to move plus or minus numbers before any multiply or divide numbers. In this case, we're going to move the plus 2 first. To move a plus 2, we need to do the opposite, which is minus 2. We need to do it to both sides. So the plus 2 and the minus 2 will cancel out, leaving us with x over 5 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we just do the calculation. 3 minus 2 makes 1. Now, to get the letter on its own, we need to move a 5 that's dividing. The bottom of a fraction divides into the top. So to move a 5 that's dividing, the opposite of that is to multiply both sides by 5. The dividing 5 and the multiplying 5 will cancel out on that left-hand side, leaving us with just x. And on the right-hand side, 1 times 5 is 5. So we're just doing the opposite of anything we want to move and processing it, really. Question 6. Solve m minus 3 all over 2 equals 5. So to solve, we want to move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. Now we move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides. We usually move plus or minus numbers before multiply or divide numbers. Now we usually move plus or minus numbers before multiply or divide, but in this case, with a long fraction line, we must move the bottom number first. So when there's a long fraction line there, we've got to move the 2 first in this case. It's a 2 that's dividing, so we're going to look to multiply both sides by 2. So that dividing by 2, that 2 on the bottom of the big fraction, is a dividing number, so we're going to do the opposite, multiply. So when that happens, that cancels that 2 out and frees up that whole section. Don't be tempted to move on the minus 3 first, because we consider he's sort of tied up by being divided by 2, and we have to move the 2 first. So that leaves us with m minus 3 on the left-hand side once the 2's disappear. And on the right-hand side, we have 5 times 2 is 10. Now, to get the letter on its own from here, we need to do the opposite of minusing 3, which is plussing 3 to both sides. That'll leave us with m on its own on the left-hand side when the 3's cancel. And 10 plus 3 is 13. So a bit different that one. When you've got a long fraction line, you must move the divide number in this case first before we attack the plus or minus number. So watch out for those long fraction lines. Got to do things differently when you see those. Question 7. Solve 5 outside of x plus 10 equals 80. We're going to expand the brackets first, then solve normally. So to solve, we'll move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We'll move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides, and we usually move plus or minus numbers before multiply or divide numbers. Alright, to expand this, the 5 multiplies by the first term in the brackets, so we get 5x. Then that front number 5 multiplies by the second term in the brackets. 5 times 10 is 50. Now they can't be merged because they're not like terms, so we just leave it as two separate answers there. And that equals 80. Now it's just a two-step equation like the other ones we've practiced. To move the 50, we're going to do the opposite to both sides, which is minus 50. The 50s will cancel out on the left-hand side, leaving us with 5x. And on the right-hand side, 80 minus 50 is 30. To move the 5 that's multiplying by the x there, we need to do the opposite to both sides, which in this case is divided by 5. That leaves the letter on its own, which is what we want, and 30 divided by 5 is 6. So we usually expand first, and then we solve whatever equation is left for us. Question 8. Solve 3 outside of m minus 4 equals 6. Here, once again, we look to expand the brackets first, then solve normally. And you know the drill, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides. And we usually look to move plus or minus numbers before any multiply or divide numbers. But we're expanding first here. The 3 expands through that bracket. The 3 multiplies by the first term and gets 3m. The 3 multiplies by minus 4 and gets minus 12. So we've expanded the bracket there, and we've got an equation to solve from now on. Okay, the opposite of a minus 12, if we want to move that, and we do, is plus 12 to both sides. The minus 12 and the plus 12 cancel out nicely, leaving us with 3m on the left-hand side, and 6 plus 12 equals 18 for the right-hand side. To move a 3 that's multiplying by the m there invisibly, we'll divide by 3 both sides, leaving us with m on the left-hand side, and 18 divided by 3 is 6 on the right-hand side. So once we expanded, we're just solving an equation as we normally should. Question 9. Solve 4 outside of 3a plus 2 equals 56. We'll expand the brackets first, then try and solve normally. We solve by moving all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We move things by doing the opposite to both sides. And we usually move plus or minuses before multiplies or divides. To expand this, the 4 multiplies by the 3a first and gets 12a. Then the 4 multiplies by the 2 and gets 8. That equals 56. So we've successfully gotten rid of the brackets now. Now we have a two-step equation here to find the value of a in the end. We'd like to move the plus 8 by doing the opposite to both sides, so we'll minus 8. Those 8s will cancel out on the left-hand side, just leaving us with the 12a term. On the right-hand side, 56 minus 8 is 48. The 12 is multiplying by the a, so if we want the letter on its own, we'll need to do the opposite, which is divide by 12 both sides. The multiplying 12 and the dividing by 12 will cancel out on the left-hand side, leaving us with a, which is what we're after. And 48 divided by 12 is 4. Question 10. Solve 5x plus 11 equals 2x minus 13. Okay, to solve an equation, we move all the numbers away from the letter until the letter's on its own. We do have 2 letter terms here though, so we'll have to be a bit creative about this one, especially at the beginning. We move numbers by doing the opposite operation to both sides, and we look to move plus or minus numbers before any multiply or divide numbers usually. Alrighty, I have a special first step for these ones, and it does make these questions go much smoother. To solve an equation with letters on both sides, we've got a 5x and a 2x there. I'd like to combine the letter terms by moving the smaller letter term first. No matter which side the smaller letter term is on, I like to move the smaller one across to where the bigger letter term is. It helps avoid minus numbers for students, which can get tricky. So here, the smooth way here is to move the smaller letter term. In this case, it's a 2x, so we're going to move that one first. Now the 2x is a positive 2x, so we can consider it to be plussing on that right-hand side. So to move that 2x and kind of merge it with the 5x, we're going to minus 2x both sides. So on the left-hand side, 5x minus 2x will give us 3x. We've got a plus 11 still on that side. The 2x and the minus 2x will kind of disappear, cancel out, and that minus belongs to the 13, so we won't affect that badly. So then we've really just got a two-step equation on our hands now, but it's a really good first step to focus on moving the smaller letter term. I highly recommend it. Alright, from here though, we want to move the plus 11 by doing the opposite to both sides, minusing 11. On the left-hand side, we're left with 3x when the 11s disappear. And on the right-hand side, we'll be careful with that one. We've got minus 13 minus another 11. This isn't a situation where two minuses make a plus. This is a number line situation. You start off at minus 13 and go 11 more jumps in the minus direction. So you end up at minus 24. Be careful there. So the 3 and the x are multiplying with each other. So we'll do the opposite to both sides. Divide by 3 both sides, leaving us with x on the left-hand side, which is what we're after. And minus 24 divided by 3, it's a minus divided by a plus, gives us a minus answer, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So once again, big first step, it's really important. Try and move the smaller letter term first. It goes much easier, these types of questions with letters on both sides.